Yes, we are live. Right. Hi, everybody. My name is Manan Puri, and I'm the co-founder of Strategy for GMAT. Uh, Today, I have with me Richa from the ISB admissions team. We will be talking about R3, which has just been announced. The deadline is 29th of January for the PGP. Um, Talk about why R3 was in place, the timelines, how does it impact in terms of chances and your candidature. Plus, we'll be also covering the R2 timelines of interview and then results in the second half of the session. And first of all, I would like to welcome you, Richa, for the session. And would you mind introducing yourself to people who've been living under the rock and don't know you yet?
Sure. Thank you, Manan. Thank you so much for hosting us tonight. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richa. I'm part of the ISB admissions team and I lead the PGP initiatives here at ISB. So that's a quick intro, but I love to be called as a mentor, as a friend. So feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn, write to us. Happy to take any questions that you may have tonight or even post the session if you have additional questions. Please feel free to drop them in our inbox. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Richa. So, first of all, let's talk about why R3 is in place, and this is a recent phenomenon, last 2 3 years, if I'm assuming.
Correct.
Earlier, it
Correct.
used to be 2 rounds, close in Feb, and then you start the process. So, what was the
Correct.
philosophy behind introducing R3 in the first place?
Great, Suman. Yes, you rightly said it. Historically, R3 was never part of the admissions process. It was recently included, keeping the pandemic in mind, because due to the pandemic, students were unable to write the exam, etc. So we gave them an additional window. This 1.5 months added is an extended window. Typically, the cycle would complete by December, mid or early December. But Jan gave them an additional buffer to take exam or submit the exam if it was initially waived off. Having said that, but now over a period of time, we realized that the students have started preparing and scheduling the GMAT GRE, keeping the whole September to the Jan cycle in mind. So we decided to retain it and not kick it away. Yeah.
Right, right. Great. Thanks for that. Now, there is a growing perception every year that the competition in R3 is a lot. It gets very difficult to get in. Some
Yes.
people say that there are not many seats left in R3. There's not even a point of applying and all that. Plus, more for
True.
reapplicants as well. If you don't make through R3, R1 is just 5 months away. So, first of all, are these myths? Are these realities? Let's throw some light on that.
Great. So, Manan, I think you'd agree that any top Ivy League B school, be it R1, R2, R3, it's never going to be easy, right? The admission process remains the same. It's the same form, the same essay, the same interview round. Everything remains the same. What changes is the scholarship percentage, so to say. First round is 100% scholarship, second round has up to 75, third round is up to 50% for PGP folks, right? The direct admits. EO and YLP remains fairly simple because they are anyways deferred admits. So nothing changes for YLP and EO because any which ways they're not competing for this current intake. They're only going to be competing for the intake which is going to start next year or 2 years from now. Now coming back to the direct admits, yes, the process is same, but also keep in mind, bear in mind that by the time it's December, Jan, we've seen that the number of applications also significantly go down. So yes, if there are less number of seats left, we also have less number of students applying in R3. One could be because of the myth that they've decided to procrastinate the process, or second, by now, more or less the students have made a decision, right? They've accepted XYZ offers. They've blocked their seat in the particular university. So the market is about to die. By Jan, students are placed somewhere. And by Jan, we have less number of students applying. So I think more or less talking about this year, in last 2 years, we saw that more number of seats were taken up in round one, round two, because the international boundaries were closed. Not students did not have much option. If they wanted to do MBA in India, ISB offer letter was a go-to place. But now we are seeing this year is behaving slightly differently. it's not the same statistics that we see of 2020 or 2021, because the boundaries have opened up, and because they're also offering great visa opportunities, etc., etc. So students have multiple options. So we see that comparatively and relatively, R3 this year has more seats up for grab. So that's a slight change that we see, and I think more so because students have multiple options this year.
Right. I think that's a great point about, borders opening up and R1, R2 was
Right.
almost done and, lesser seats available,
Yeah.
because a lot of people and reapplicants were told in the sessions themselves that you applied in R3, that's why it didn't get through and all that. And that created an impression in the minds that, why
Right.
have R3 in the first place? So it's good to know
Correct.
this year that there will be slightly more seats up for grabs.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you can definitely target that. The follow-up question to that is it more competitive versus R1 and R2? So a lot of people are asking questions. Okay, do I need to score a 730 on the GMAT to
Right. Right.
secure a seat? My profile should be X or Y. Do I need to be diverse and those kind of things?
Correct. Correct. So again, a very good question, Manan. Even in our sessions, a lot of students ask this question, but we actually have in our current class, we have in the class code 23, we have students with GMAT score less than 700. If I may take an example, so his testimonial is also there on the YouTube. So if students want, his name is Abhishek. He had a GMAT score of 640, I think, and he's actually shared his R3 journey. He applied in R3. He is in class of 23 currently. So we have students with less than 700 scores. So I think it's all about, at ISB, it has always been about holistic approach, right? Scores have never been that one driving factor. You have to bear in mind that your YMBA story has to be very, very clear. You have to be clear about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. Why do you want to invest your 1 year of your life at ISB? How are you going to leverage this platform? So I think this we've been talking about from the word go, be it R1, be it R2, be it R3. Scores are important, yes, but it's just one of the parameters. It's not the only guiding parameters. So they have to focus on the quality of their application. They have to focus how are they going to, if they say, if my hobby is taking evening classes in XYZ village or serving in an NGO, are you really invested in that cause, right? How are you creating an impact? So I think be also parallelly ready with what worked, what didn't work, the challenges, the hits, the misses. Why are you doing whatever you are doing? So be ready with those questions if you come across in the interview. So you have to carry your application and yourself really well for the entire process. I think all of this is very, very important, not just the scores.
So basically, the fundamentals don't change. While
Yes,
it
it
is fully
doesn't change.
running.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So the parameters is not there. ISB does not have a different, yardstick for people
Process doesn't
applying.
change. The same application form, same number of essays. The difficulty level is just the same.
Great, great. And the follow-up question on the timelines. Now, a lot of
Yeah.
people, are apprehensive that even if they apply in R3 and get through, uh, by when will the results come in? Will they have enough time for notice period and those kind of things?
Oh, so Manan, I think we have to be really honest here that R3 that ways gets a little tricky and difficult with respect to timelines. And I think we've been really, really verbose about it from the word go again, that R3 gives you less window. Right, guys? So if 29th Jan is your R3 deadline, we will at least take 1 month to schedule your interviews, to consolidate all your scores, be it application score, be it your interview score. The results are not expected anytime before March first week, at least. Right. So you have to be mentally prepared that you are left with less than 2 months. And I think we've been talking about it that this advantage definitely R1, R2 guys have. So R3 will give you about 30, 40 days wherein you will have to plan how will you take care of your financials with respect to education loan, etc. How will you take care of your family, the logistics part of it? Are you bringing them there or somebody taking care of them? And of course, serving your notice period, your entire exit strategy at work. So this is something which R3 guys will have to think through. And I think this is a decision that they've taken for themselves. So I think they should plan it well. Yeah.
Right, right. And they know, right, before applying that this will be a lesser window,
Yeah.
you can always plan.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and one more thing, I think the worst hit is basically the notice period that you'll have to buy out.
Right.
And
Right.
I would
Right.
say that treat that as an investment towards, in addition to the whatever 35, 40 lakhs that you're spending in the fees. It'll be a hardly, a lot less amount around that, and just go with that and apply for more scholarships once you're at ISB, which you can
Right.
do. Right. And that brings me to the question on scholarships. You mentioned there are lesser scholarships available for R3 folks. Are there opportunities once you start the course for any scholarships,
Yeah.
which is basically a level playing field for people who've
Oh,
applied through
yes,
any?
so absolutely. So scholarships at ISB are offered in three different stages. One, when you're applying at the time of application. The second bucket kicks in, which is during the program, right? So there are a couple of donors, anonymous donors. We've reached out to them, but by the time the grants are given to us, or by the time those funds hit us, possibly the students are already in the class. So yes, that's a second opportunity. The third opportunity is for those who've completed their graduation and who choose to go for certain select industries. That's where, like for example, Develop India Scholarship is for those who select the social sector, or the to participate in the NGOs, etc. There, in that case, the donor decides that he will take care of your EMIs, the loan EMIs, for let's say X months, X number of years. So so these are three different stages wherein the scholarships will kick in. So yes, this is not the only opportunity. This is not where the game ends. There will be more opportunities during the program, post the completion. So just hang in there, yes.
Right. And if you're an EEO applicant or a YLP, then
Right.
this scenario does not apply to you, right? Because the scholarships
For
are then decided.
yes, so for EO and YP students, irrespective of which round you're applying, the opportunity remains the same, because you all are any which way is not competing for this year's intake, right? Your admission process will kick in, or the scholarship process will kick in the year you're supposed to be joining. So a separate portal will open up for the deferred pool. We call them as a deferred pool. All the YP and the EO folks, they are called the deferred pool. So it's a separate process. So irrespective of the round, you're any which way is not competing. In fact, y'all are early movers, right? So it's a huge safety net, and y'all can really present your case really well. It's a very flexible option for EO and YP folks. So, yeah.
So effectively, you become an R1 applicant who's got through and eligible for almost
Yeah,
all scholarships.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Right, great. And there's a question again back to GMAT. Does someone with a score of 600 stand a chance in R3? I know you've covered it, but I think this person joined late. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I think the next important part is that you will have to build your case, which is the application form, in such a way that there are other spikes, right? Talk about your career progression. Talk about those. If you've got, let's say, less than 8 years, 10 years of work experience, talk about your leadership potential. But if you've got more than 10 years of experience, talk about your proven leadership trajectory. So show to us that you have those leadership tenets, because ultimately we are looking for future leadership skill sets, right? Tomorrow you're going to be leaders in the respective fields and represent the brand ISB. So show it to us through academics, through extracurriculars, through your work experience, or any other awards and achievements, which showcases that resilience in you, the never give up attitude in you, the positive leader in you. That's the ultimate idea. We give you enough and more placeholders in the application form to talk, to tell your story.
Right. And Bharat, just to add, applying in R3 will not diminish your chances regardless of whatever experience that you have. Uh, there's a follow-up question on the, the post ISB outcome. So ISB is a consulting heavy school. That's another perception. Now, if somebody is 8+ years of experience, do they have a lesser chance of making it to consulting roles post ISB?
Oh, no. In fact, most of our senior folks are, or rather, they prefer to get into consulting because they're functional experts. They have technical expertise. They have been leaders. They have been subject matter experts of the respective function. They are the ideal candidates for consulting, right? And in fact, they are hired at very senior positions. Be it 8 years, be it 10 years, be it 4Gs, the armed forces personals who've got about 20, 25 years of experience. They're all they move into consulting if they want to. Of course, there are other functions, there are other domains, industries as well, but consulting, in fact, some consulting roles are exclusively cut out, wherein they say that students with 8 years, 10 years only can apply. So very specific cutout roles for these folks as well.
Right. No, that's good. Um, and another question on R3. Some employers do not agree to a notice buyout. So what will be our option then?
See, guys, the program starts on 15th April, right? You have to report on the campus, whichever has been allocated to you on 15th April. That's non-negotiable, right? And we always knew that R3 is going to be Jan. The program start date is going to be 15th April. I have always been very, verbose again about that tentatively the R3 results are out by March. So we
Yeah.
knew what we're getting into, guys, right? And we're still here talking about R3. So I think let's make peace with something that we cannot change. You have to be able to have this conversation with your reporting manager, that understanding that on this date I have to be on the campus. So this is something that you will have to manage, guys. ISB will not give you an extension. The orientation is mandatory. You have to attend that. That's not negotiable.
And it's one of the most fun activities that
Yeah,
happens on campus. So you
that's where
can't
the
miss
real
that.
bondings start. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, the O week
True.
is the best. And then in terms of the GRE or GMAT scores, can the students take it, let's say, on the 29th of January and then submit the official scores later?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. They can write the exam on 29th of Jan. They can submit the application with their unofficial scores, and the scores can reach us within 10 to 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks, whichever the ETS or the Pearson is taking. So, absolutely, for round three as well, you can apply with your unofficial scores. But, guys, mind you, you any which ways have very lean time window. So, make sure that you are keeping everything on a fast track.
Yeah, because in till the time you receive the official scores, your application will not be marked complete, which means it will
Yes.
not be
Your
reviewed.
interview
Or it
cannot
will,
be, yes, yes,
yeah.
yes, absolutely.
So interview cannot be scheduled. So make sure you have enough time to send the official scores out. Only in cases of extreme circumstances, just delay your GMAT or GRE. Otherwise, there is enough time to apply. Do your applications in parallel if you want, and make sure
Absolutely.
the
Keep
scores
all the other elements
reach.
ready and just be ready to hit the submit button. Absolutely.
Right, right. And if someone is selected as an early entry option, when does he or she have to, accept the offer and pay the admissions fee?
Well, the timelines remain the same for EEO folks as well. The only difference this year is that they don't have to pay the commitment fee, right? Because the commitment fee is for those is a component which means that you are, for example, in this year accepting to be enrolled into class of 24. So you pay your admission fee once you receive the offer letter. Then you pay the commitment fee, which is 1 month from the admission fee, wherein you are confirming your participation in the program. If you choose to defer, then you have to pay the deferral fee. If you choose to withdraw, then of course, if you've paid admission fee based on the terms and conditions, it's partially refundable, etc. So these are the three components. EU folks will have to accept the offer letter, will have to pay the admissions fee. So that's about it.
Right.
And
And
the
yeah.
commitment fee, etc., all those will kick in the year they're supposed to join. So right now they will have to accept the letter. They'll have to accept by paying the admission fee.
Okay. And a lot of people, or few people would want to, join the course and then maybe they find another
Right.
program or anything else to start. Can
Right.
they exit, let's say, in term one? While it's not advisable, but can they do that? And what is the impact on the
So when you
fees?
say exit, do you mean to say leave of absence, LOA?
Yes. Just
All
just
right. So
leave the
yes,
program and join elsewhere, for instance.
yes, so sometimes it does happen that students who've joined and they leave within the first term or the first week. But in that case, they're again based on the that's pro rata basis. The amount is refunded. So again, the finance team will be able to give the more details based on which term you are leaving, how much money is going to be refunded because the entire tuition fee has to be paid before you join the program, right? So depending on how many terms you attended, that's the refund which is possible. But yes, that happens every year. We do have one or two students who quit midway because possibly they got any other offer letter
Yeah.
abroad, mostly abroad. So yeah.
Right, right. Vivek, we will touch upon R2 in a bit. Thank you for about 10 messages so far. Um, the question is, do we need to submit a relieving letter from our organization at the time of joining, or we can submit it a bit late after adjusting out, let's say, the paid leave and those kind of things?
Or you could do that later. It's just that that document has to be submitted so that the placements team can start getting in touch with you. So yes, you can write to the team, take an extension, and it's okay. You can take a week or month's time and submit that document. So that's okay.
Sure, sure. And can you touch upon which companies visit the campus for automotive sector and those kind of jobs? Are there any,
Sure.
you've just finished placements, anything on that?
So I will hold my comments for what's happening on the campus with respect to placements. There'll be an official media release next week, next Wednesday, if I may say so. So I think let's just park that question for now. I will let the concerned team and the concerned spokesperson make a comment on that. But yes, so far the recruitment, the placements look fine, and it's solstice time as well. So I think in general, there's a good cheer on the campus. There's great positivity. The campus is lit up. My room looks great, and the view is great. So I think yes, the placements have been great. All of this information, guys, you will receive shortly. Next week there'll be an official media release. So yeah, all of this information is going to be there. Yes.
Right. But in general, a lot of automotive companies do come in, the likes of Tata
Yes.
Motors,
See, we
Maruti,
need to
etc.
understand. Yes, we need to understand that the number of students opting for auto as an industry. So, if you see the representation, a lot of students ask me that it's only 3%, 4%, 5%. It keeps changing. It's a dynamic number which keeps changing every year. It's because so many students in that year wanted that show, right? Because ultimately at ISB, it's not what we have to offer to you, it's what you want from us, right? So you have multiple offer letters and you can choose your dream offer letter. You have the flexibility to choose whatever up to 2 3, you can choose one. So it totally depends. The end decision is with the student. So depending on how many students are actually accepting auto, so that's why those numbers are about, sometimes 8%, sometimes 5, sometimes 6, sometimes 2%. It keeps changing depending on the interest of the current class. It's not
Right.
it's not an indication of the school's competency or ability to get that. It's about the interest quotient of the current class.
Fair enough. And how is ISB for marketing aspirants?
Oh, great. So, in fact, marketing is the fourth largest. Yes, consulting is the largest. Second is the IT product management. Third is BFSI. And fourth is marketing. So it's a huge this thing. In fact, sooner or later, I'll be doing this session with some of our students where they're going to talk about their placements. I'm just waiting for an official release, which is scheduled next week. Then we will actually be conducting this session. So HUL has done great recruitment. One of the students have got 48 lakhs package, and it's great. They've got great roles. So it is doing really well this year as well, despite the so-called downturn that we've been talking about.
Okay, great. And Rohit has a question for the academic year 21-22. Classes started from May. If then, why is it preponed? So, Rohit, it was just an anomaly due to COVID for the past couple of years. Traditionally, since ISB started, it has been around the
Always been
April
April.
timeframe, and first or second week. So, ISB is going back to the normal, which is a
The
great thing.
normal, the
And
pre-COVID era.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So that's great. Bharatesh, if the person is placed in one company, you cannot, once you accept the offer, you cannot sit for other companies because you should be out of the process and give others a chance if you've
Yes.
accepted an
Once
offer.
you've accepted an offer, yes, you have to let others, you have to give the opportunities to others. Till the time you accept, you can sit through. So I have some students who have 4 to 5 offers and they have a deadline before which they have to commit so that the other students can sit through. But I think, yes, the placements are done on the campus. So, yeah.
Great, great. Okay, now let's discuss R2. If people have questions about R3, we can definitely cover those in the session.
Right.
What is the R2 interview process from now on? People are
Right.
anxious, as you can see, GMAT Club and all other places. So
Right.
let's talk
Right.
about the process and what's in
Right.
store.
Great. Yes. we are going to be starting the interviews from the 24th of December. We will be publishing the city-wise details tonight. In fact, as I speak, we have the Adcom, which is happening next door, which is the conference room. So we have all the Adcom members there. We're in the YLP stage 2, the 2022 results and the round 2 deadlines, etc., are being formed up. And once I receive an official email around it, all of this information is going up on our website. But yes, the interviews are going to start from the 24th of December. From 20th on a rolling basis, based on which is your slot, every Monday or Tuesday, those limited set of students will be informed of their slots. This process will continue till Jan end. 15th of February, like for round 1, we had 18th of November. For round 2, by 15th of February, we will be announcing all the results, offered, waitlist, reject.
So that's a difference from R1, wherein people got their confirmations that they have been shortlisted on a particular day. It was a huge lot that came out, and the details of the interview came in later. Now that lot email will not happen this time around.
So as in for round 2, what we are doing is that because the timelines are very, very short, we are, as and when we're processing the applications, etc., we are releasing those bit pieces of information, right? So that's why a slight change here. But the final results, right, the entire consolidated thing will happen on 15th. Because because the scores haven't come up, a lot of applications, the official scores haven't come on, the LOR hasn't come in, but we're not waiting for that because we understand that the timeline is very lean. So we are front loading all the applications which are completed, like you rightly said. There's a checklist process. So as and when the applications are getting completed, we are going on scheduling the interview. So therefore, that's the reason it's going to be like the trend is going to be similar for R3 as well.
Okay. So
And
basically,
R3 is going to be a little more, even more dynamic because we have very, very short time for the R3 process. Yeah.
right. So just to clarify, one lot will be always as per the interview location for the people whose applications are complete. If somebody misses that interview location slot, let's say for Hyderabad on 7th or 8th, hypothetically, because applications are not complete, then they will still get that interview call 5 days prior, and the interviews might be online for them.
Right. That's right.
Right. So that's a different process, slightly different process this time around, guys. So I'll reiterate again, maybe take a note of it, somebody record it and put it out there. Unlike round 2, where the confirmations came in and the schedule came in later, this time around only the confirmations will come in 4 to 5 days prior to the interview, which means it is rolling. In case your application is complete and you've not got a call for that particular location, it might be a capacity issue. So don't lose hope. Till the time you get rejected or get a rejection email, you're still in the process. In case location has passed, you are still eligible and you could have an online interview.
That's right.
Or you could add more, location slots later on as well. So
later on,
do not self-reject, please. And
yes,
do not
absolutely,
right?
yes, that's right.
And and just to add, it does not depend on when you submitted your application or when the verification email came in and all that. It is done in lots. Some people finish the verification earlier, some people do it later.
Right.
So there is no pattern to anything around it. As long as you are not getting that rejection email, you are still in the process.
You're still in the process. Yes, that's right.
Okay. A lot of people have said that, my application still shows an incomplete status. I've submitted all the documents. Some people said that score has reached ISB via ATS and the same thing has happened. So should they be worried, or it's just a process delay and it'll happen?
It's just a process delay and it'll happen. But document it. Please drop in an email to pgp@isb.edu with a screenshot that the score has been reported to ISB and the screenshot that the application still shows that it is incomplete, so that from your side, the team knows that you've been proactive, you made a note of it, you've documented it. So that's the best way to do it. But yes, sooner or later, typically over the weekend, the team will finish. It's just a manual process. They have to select your name and say complete. So that's how it'll go.
Okay, just a process thing, so don't worry about it, guys.
Yeah,
Let's talk about the importance of the interview now, which is the more
yeah,
important question regarding
right.
apart from the timeline. So if you're through the the application stage, does that mean interview becomes a make or break, or is it a composite score later on?
Well, it's a combination of both. Okay. Application score is important, yes, which is a combination of so many elements that we've been going on talking about, holistic approach, etc. And then your interview becomes very, very important, right? So interview is not the make or break of your story at ISB, your journey to class of 24. Ultimately, the interview scores is going to get merged, is going to be added to your application score. So the total score is going to be your profile score, and that will decide whether you're in, you're on the fence, you're out. So it's not a make or break. So if you feel that you were not able to present yourself well in the application form, here is a chance. Speak well, present your story well, and I think overall, I think generally, if you've done your homework well, if you've had your conversations with self well, you'll be able to take care of the interviews because it's a very friendly interview. It's not a stress interview. It's not a technical round. We don't ask maths codes. We don't ask for you to code it. It's just your strengths, your weaknesses, what you like doing, and if you say that I like baking, there could be questions around which flavors and this and that. Somebody talked about basketball, so the students interview just revolved around which player is your best player, etc., etc. So it's a friendly conversation. All they check is a cultural fit. That tomorrow, if you're added to the students community, can they have a healthy conversation with you, right? Your positivity, your overall cultural fit in the student community, and then future is an alum community. So I think that's what they're checking for. So it's going to be a friendly conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very important to know whatever you've written in the application, each and every word. Like Richa said, the interview can be revolved around the entire hobby that you have, basketball or
Mhm.
even stamp collection or anything else,
Right.
because they want to know, how deep you are, in terms of whatever you have done and whatever you have written. So if you have done
Right.
it earnestly, if you've done it yourself, then it will show in the interview. And it's a major red flag as well, in case you're not able to defend something that you've written, right? So and that becomes a difficult process for the adcom. Even though your application is good, the interview becomes important. In case alums feel that you've not done it yourself, then they'll just write it there, and then uh, it probably is not good news for you, right? So make sure you
Right.
know each and every word of your application, why it's there, and two levels deeper than whatever it had, right?
Correct.
For the interviews, are any documents required to be carried, or
No,
not?
no. For the interviews, no documents. The document verification happens once you've enrolled into the program, right? So suppose if you're shortlisted and if your date of joining is 15th, 15th is going to be the document verification process. 7 o'clock in the morning, the process starts. It goes up right till 10 a.m., 11 a.m. before your orientation starts. So for now, nothing much is required.
Right. And in case somebody gets an interview call and they're not able to, attend it on that date, can they
Right.
request for a reschedule?
Absolutely. You can immediately respond to that email saying that for whatever personal or professional reason you are unable to attend the interview, please ask for an alternate slot because, like Manan has already talked about, the slots are limited, right? And if we have to accommodate you in the online session, please feel free to send us your request ASAP to pgp@isb.edu and we will be able to make changes accordingly. If we are able to do a repeat session in your city, yes, that's the first option. Second, otherwise, we'll take all the online sessions at the end because we'll have to consolidate all of those requests. Then do not start writing to us, please, that when is my interview? When is my interview? Because we will schedule all of those requests and that will be the last set, right? So you will have to hang in there, have patience again, guys.
Right. I think that's one thing, we have to always mention: do not get anxious. Your work of submitting the application is done. It is in
Yeah,
ISB's court now. You can prepare for the interview. Anxiety will not get you anywhere. I know
yeah,
it's easier said than done. I was also anxious before my interview, but hindsight is always great. You can learn from people's experiences. Just
yeah,
focus on the prep. In case you're in, you will get to know 5 days, 6 days prior to the interview. So it's important for you to start preparing for the interview now itself, so that when it comes, you can grab the opportunity with both hands. So anxiety will not help at all throughout the process, right? Um, And Harshal, yes, options are for people to choose the online interview for candidates who are living in remote areas. ISB would prefer, and I would strongly recommend also to go and attend the interview in person, because there's nothing like an in-person interaction. Looking at the body language of your alums, you can interact with fellow applicants, fellow alums as well. Online, of course, it is an option, but try avoiding that as much as possible, is what I will say from personal experience. I did a number of offline interviews this time around. They were great, good conversations over chai, coffee. So definitely, it's important to try and do an offline interview if you can. Can we throw some timeline, light on the YLP 21-22 results? It was told that they'll be released in the second week of December, and
Yes.
they've not heard from the Adcom yet, and people are obviously not happy.
Yes. So again, like I said, the Adcom is going on, and today I think they will be finalizing. So we know there is a cutoff every year, so that's exactly what we are seeking approval from the Adcom, and the team will reach out again. So once this is done, the team will take about 1 week's time to segregate, the offer, and then the rejects, etc. So I think possibly by first week of Jan, the YP 2022 lot will hear from the school, and we will be sending a communication after today's meeting. The team will send you a communication with the exact date, that on this date, but typically it will be first week of Jan. Because after today's communication, they will take about 1 week, 10 days time to make sure that all those cutoff, etc., are falling in the right pockets, etc. So first week of Jan it is. Exact date will be emailed to you.
Right. And guys, like I promised, we could do a live, profile evaluation for a couple of folks.
Right.
So as I'm asking, few more questions, you can drop your profile anonymously, or just, certain details here in the chat box, and we'll cover it. And right at the end of the session in another 5 to 7 minutes. So if you're interested, please go ahead, do that. And so the question, Richa, is, do multiple GMAT scores on your scorecard affect your admission chances?
Oh, not at all. We don't even know that you've written multiple GMAT, because we will only refer to the one which you entered in the application form, right? The reference number or the appointment reference number. So we only know that you've written, or we only know that that is one score you want us to see. So we don't even know which other exams you've written or how many times you've taken the test. So it's okay.
Right, right. And Richa, there's a gripe from somebody that why EO admits do not have similar pre-PGP sessions as YLP admits, because they have the same amount of experience.
Oh, yes, I keep hearing that, Manan. So I guess actually the YLP students are not yet exposed to the corporate, right? So they need a lot more grooming before they actually get introduced to the ISB culture. So they have about 5 learning weekends, and we give them a flavor of what they should be looking at. So it's basically a hand-holding process for them, so that they also take right decisions while they are making those corporate decisions or startup entrepreneurial decisions, so that once after 2 years when they join ISB, they're not lost.
Hmm.
So because they're the younger lots, they've not been exposed, so that's why their handholding is slightly more different. The sessions are more about grooming and those interpersonal skills, etc., which I feel the EO folks, they're already in the industry, they're already in the corporate, they've already made a decision, and that's why you've been shortlisted, because you have that maturity, right? You have that focus, you have that vision, you've been able to translate all of that, you've been able to communicate all of that to the panel, hence you've been shortlisted. But YLP interview process is very different from EU interview process. There are no career related questions for the YLP folks. So we have that ownership, we have to take care that it's a responsibility that we groom them to make the right decisions at the corporate. So that's why it's not right fit. Those learning weekends are not right fit for the EO folks. This is what the academics feel, team feel. And when so this last weekend, we had the YLP folks who were attending the learning weekend on the Hyderabad campus. And we attended a couple of sessions, and we realized that there's a lot of actually grooming session happens, and we possibly the YLP folks need that. That's the only logic, guys. Yeah. You have that maturity, and that's why you've been made that offer, and that's why you're there. You're ready to join us. Yeah.
Great, great. And In terms of again R3, couple of questions. What percentage of seats are available? I'm not sure if you can answer that, but any
It
insight
changes
on
every year, but what I can tell you is that this year it looks better than the last 2 years, I guess. Possibly because students had a lot of options this year, maybe. So, but yes, I won't be able to disclose the exact percentage. It changes every year, but yes, I think you all just got lucky that the pandemic is over, and yeah.
yeah, right. And if I have to talk about the relative importance, I can't. I know you can't really reveal the source scores, but
Yeah,
application outcome versus interview, which has a higher weightage.
both are same.
Okay.
Both are
And,
absolutely same.
and
Yes.
within the application, there are different components. So
Yes,
GMAT,
within the
GRT,
application there are different, even within interview, there are different parameters, right? So you, I'm sure, have been part of the interviews prior in the earlier days. So you would know that there are there is rating in, of course, communication skills, on clarity, on your articulation, on the initial leadership skill sets that you've shown, your team leadership abilities. So within interview process also, there are various parameters on which you are graded.
Right. That's great.
Yeah,
We've got a couple of profile evaluation requests. I can throw
sure.
my views on that after you evaluate. So one, if somebody is a female lawyer. It's Rockness Imposter 001. I'm sure it's the same thing in the courtroom as well, whoever you are. So female lawyer, 730 GMAT, 6 years of experience, founding team and product management experience of a Series D startup. Also worked in MBB as a junior consultant.
Wow. See, from whatever I've heard, rock solid profile, not just with respect to the scores. One, women diversity, a very strong element. You know that at ISB we really value, there's a lot of focus on women leadership. Perhaps we're the only school which has at the standards of the Harvards of 60-40 ratio. Second, lawyer. Again, this is again a very niche function, a diversity pool that we call it as. In fact, all the representation which is less than 5% is diversity. The doctors, the mountaineers, the Fauji's, the lawyers, etc. That, and again the score is quite decent. Second, she has already shown a proven leadership trajectory with respect to inroads in corporates, right? So I think all of these are great spikes in the form. Over to you, Manan. So while you speak, I will quickly plug in the charger before I am thrown out of this meeting room,
Sure, sure,
please.
sure. Yeah, sure, sure. So, absolutely, as Richa said, stellar profile. Important to also talk about the goals and prepare the applications well, because it's not just the profile, it's about how you present it in your application and the interview. A lot of people with 730, 740 GMAT do get rejected because they lack that clarity. And in your case, definitely the question will be, you were a lawyer. Why did you transition towards the corporate experience or worked in MBB? And then what next post ISB? So that journey needs to be called out pretty well, because there are different things that you've done, which is great, but the why behind those different things needs to come out really well, and that clarity post ISB needs to be shown well. Okay. The second profile, Richa, if you're hearing me, uh,
Yes.
3 months of experience as an assistant manager in B2B sales and 12 months as a graduate trainee at Godrej Interior, electrical engineer with 8.5 CGPA in government college in Odisha, and it's GMAT of 740.
All right, great. So 740 score, it's a great decent score. 8 years of experience, which means a senior executive club that we call it as. So that's again a diversity quotient in this case, because we have again a focus for senior
Sorry,
folks
Richa,
as well.
it's 15 months of total experience. 8.5 was the GPA.
Okay, so in that case, then, and what was the background, if I may, if you can repeat that again?
Well, I'll repeat the entire thing. 3 months experience as a in B2B sales, 12 months as a
Yes,
graduate trainee at Godrej Interior, electrical engineer
right.
with 8.5 CGPA from a government college, and
So
GMAT of
basically,
7.
this is an EO profile.
Yes, for now, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So in this case, I think what you will have to talk about, so for EU, it's slightly different from the direct admits, right? Here in this case, you will have to talk about that. Having said that you got this kind of exposure, what are the next few months looking like, right? You will have to build in your expertise there and then talk about that, because when you will join ISB, you just possibly will have about 2.5 years of experience. From that point on, what is it that you want to do next? For EU folks, that story becomes more important. That handling that part of the interview becomes very, very important. So in this case, because both for YLP and EO folks, we know that these are early entrants. These are early career professionals, right? So not too much grinding will happen on the work experience, the leadership, etc., etc. They just have to focus on how are they going to manage the X number of months before they join ISB, and
Yeah.
post ISB, what is their plan? So this is a slightly different approach to the EU YLP folks. This is what they have to keep in mind.
Correct.
But
Correct.
yes, with respect to score, etc., is just fine. The essay part will become very, very critical, and you have to handle this very, very beautifully, because they'll be interested to know how serious you are, how much clarity you have. The articulation will become very, very important.
Right. Great. Final profile evaluation, public sector oil and gas experience across supply chain and infra projects, 6 years of experience,
Right.
7 GMAT, NIT graduate.
All right, great. So the industry is very niche in this case, right? Oil and gas is again a great representation. Less than 2% of folks actually come from this industry. So you again, this is again a diversity. Are you, Manan, only going to give me diversity profiles? Because then people will say I'm only going to be talking about
Okay.
diversity. But yes,
Yeah.
uh, this is something that you have to highlight in your profile. This is going to make your profile stand out. I think, in short, guys, if you see that I am trying to see all the three cases, my first thought process was to pick up what's a spike in your profile,
Yeah.
right? I think possibly because that is how my mind has been trained to counsel students. And I think you have to train your mind in a similar fashion. You have to identify no profile is good or bad, guys. We get thousands of applications each year. Believe you me, each student has a story. Each student represents his story in a different style. So you have to identify that this is my strength, this is my uniqueness, this is my diversity. So in your case, please pick up this industry that you're representing as your diversity, right? And how are you going to identify your challenges, identify your strengths, how you're going to leverage same ISB as a platform? What are you going to do next? Are you going to move into consulting, or are you going to move into the same industry, going back there? It's as a lateral recruit. You will have to talk about your story, guys. So again, I think it's a great spike here again in this story.
Right. Let me give you one final traditional profile. So, 5 years of experience in IT industry, electronics engineer with a CGPA of 7.8 and a GMAT of 640.
Oh, wow. Yes. In this case, two, three things are average. Male engineer, score, and comes from the IT sector. So I think it's going to be very important for him to talk about make other spikes in the resume, right? Either in awards and achievements, either in the hobbies, either in the essay of his strengths, his weaknesses, and of course the career essay.
Yeah.
So
And
these
yeah,
placeholders are going to get very, very important for him.
yeah. And a slight advantage in case it's a female engineer, but not a
A
lot.
slight advantage with respect to female because of the female diversity quotient. Yes.
That's it. Yeah. And in your cases, right, where GMAT is slightly low, undergrad averages or GPA is slightly average,
Yeah.
I would say go all out in the essays. Right?
Yeah.
Do not have traditional ones. I want to get into consulting because of XYZ reasons or the first
Yeah.
essay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Correct.
play on the offensive in the essays and go all out is all I'll say,
Mm.
because that would help, like Richa said, in terms of putting your profile right up there. Um,
Right.
Ninal is asking what is the safe score of admission using GRE. Even 800 on GMAT or 340 on GRE is not safe. There's
It's
nothing
not
called a
safe.
safe score.
There's nothing
Uh,
called safe.
yeah.
We've rejected folks with, even in round one, if you are already part of the GMAT Club forum, we've rejected somebody with 770 score, right?
Yes.
So it's important to have a story. There is no
Hmm.
safe score. There is no perfect score which will get you an admit to any of the Ivy Leagues. It's very, very, because guys understand that scores are not an indication of your leadership potential,
Correct.
right? These are softer skills which you have to inculcate, which you have to learn over a process of time. You have to do a lot of self conversation to understand and build it. So that is very important, right? So I think your entire story of what you were doing earlier, what you've been currently doing in the recent past, what you want to do next, if you're able to beautifully connect all the dots, build the entire story, that's going to be important.
Perfect. Cool. We've come to the end of the session. So, any final thoughts, comments on whatever we've discussed so far from you, Richa?
Right, Manan. So I think just one piece of advice, guys, that R3 is 29th of Jan, we all know. And we all also know that we have less time for you to make decision, for you to enroll into the program. So if you're seriously giving yourself a chance in this round, start working from today. Right? While you're preparing for your GMAT GRE, please also start parallelly working on your application form. It takes nothing, guys. Bit by bit, build it. All of the information saves. You don't lose any part of the information. Shoot out the recommender email right away, right? Because it's going to be Christmas time, it's going to be New Year, people are going to be off the grid for next 10 days, 15 days again. So why waste that time? Trigger that email right away. So start building your application brick by brick. Be ready so that even if you're writing your exam on 29th of Jan, you're going to hit that press button and submit it. Your
Yes.
application is not going to get delayed because the LOR has not come in, right? It's only going to wait for your official score. And that you can actually ask ETS to send it. So we've actually received scores in 4 5 days as well.
Yeah.
So that is something which is in your hand, you can control. But the last thing that you want to do is, because in this round we are facing that difficulty, we have a bunch of students whose LORs are still not coming. That
Yeah.
is a waste, right? Your scores are in, your application has been submitted, we are only waiting for your recommender. And then the whole process of, can I change my recommender? Well, yes, you can do that. We can do it from backend, but this is a situation which could have been avoided, which can be avoided again.
Yeah.
So that is the first piece of advice. And second, guys, that you're in the game, right? Even if it is R3, there are seats left. There are scholarships left. ISB is not the only school which is offering R3. There are multiple schools in India and abroad which offer R3. We have students who have enrolled in the program through R3, have received scholarships, have entered the program with a 640, with a 680, with a 720, the 780 score as well. So all they were focusing on was why I want to do ISB. It was your decision to not go for R1, R2. Let's just accept it. You have decided to plan your MBA journey in the round three. Let's also accept that, because we cannot go back and change that.
Yeah.
So please embrace this with grace, and let's just be very confident and let's just go for the kill. So
Uh,
with that, I will now stop talking. Otherwise, I can go on and on.
in fact, while you were talking, I had two more questions in mind. One, um, at what point in time would R2 applications move to R3 in case they're incomplete or recommenders have not submitted and those kind of things?
So see, the last set of interviews for R2 will be Jan end. And if even by, so I think typically by Jan end, only the LOR is something that is going to be incomplete, because the scores would have definitely come in.
Yeah.
And if that happens, then it is going to get clubbed with the first, if whatever the first city, if that city is getting mapped, or the online component. But I
Right.
think it's a good, it has never happened, because 1.5 months is enough and more time. People have actually got their LORs also changed. So the recommender details got changed. So it's just
Right.
fine.
Right.
Yeah.
And in case people submit earlier for R3, do they get interviewed earlier, or it'll only happen once R2 is done and that takes
It'll
some
only
time?
happen once the R3 is done, because, like I said, you are aware of the process, right? It's a consolidated reporting which happens to Adcom, and then they approve of a cutoff. So for interview also there is a cutoff, application score cutoff. That this is the X score. Everybody above the score is called for interview. So that approval comes from the Adcom. So therefore, this can never be a rolling process.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Richa, for taking out time for the
yeah,
second
sure.
time for us and talking about the entire process. For the candidates, all I'll say is if you have a doubt, just apply. I mean, if you don't apply, you will not get through, and if you apply, you just might get through. And
Yeah.
even if you don't, then R1 next year is there, and ISB does not take reapplicants in a bad light. In fact, you have one
Yes.
more essay of 200 words to talk about, which the others
Yeah.
won't. So just
Yeah.
give it a shot, and you might just make the cut. With that, thank you so much for taking out time, everybody. Have a good rest of the evening. Happy prepping. Feel free to reach out to us at Strategy for GMAT in case you need any help with evaluation, working on your application, anything else that you might have a doubt with. We are always open to more conversations and meeting lovely people. Thank you so much and have a good rest of the evening.
Absolutely, guys. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year in advance. Please
Yeah.
spend quality time with your family because you're not going to get that once you're on the campus. So enjoy
Yes.
every enjoy every bit that you can with your family. Gear up, buckle up. It's going to be ISB time soon.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good
Happy
night.
weekend. Thank you.